I had to just kind of take a moment before I started this time because this is a movie that just left me in a little bit of a standstill. I'm still thinking about it, which I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess that's kind of a good thing for the director because it's sitting with me, but it's not sitting with me for a positive reason. This is a movie that a lot of people have just been talking about, good word of mouth. It was a movie that premiered at a festival, which then leaked online, which garnered a lot of attention through social media, and now has been given a theatrical release in independent film. And all of a sudden, the movie, shot for $15,000, has garnered 1.5 million bucks. It's written and directed by Kyle Edward Ball. The film is called Skinamarink, which, if you haven't guessed, is sort of a play on with the title of that song, Skinamarink. Yes. However, that's not exactly clarified when you watch the movie. I think you can draw your own conclusion to that because this movie centers around two children who wake up in the middle of the night to find that their father is missing, only to realize that doors and windows in the house start to disappear as other things in the house also begin to kind of just, switch up and do some very strange things. This is one of those movies that is shot very just gritty and distorted, and it's just not exactly very clear on what it's trying to say. I heard about this movie through a friend of mine. I didn't really know that this movie existed until and that's very rare for me because I'm the first person to kind of know pretty much of any film that's coming out or releasing. But I was intrigued because, again, when a movie is shot for a limited budget, it's horror, and it gets released in the theater, and it's only basically popping up in your city because of good word of mouth. I'm very inclined to see why that is. The last time that happened was because of Paranormal Activity. And we all know how well that movie did and the success of that series. Now, having seen Skinamarink, I'm not entirely sure where to stand with this movie. It's not a film that I'm going to necessarily recommend. I don't think there was anything that wonderful about it. Now, again, given the fact that it is so buzzed and talked about, and I have to at least give the director some credit that he shot the movie for chunk change by comparison to movie money. And now that he's made 1.5 million in return, I have a good feeling he's going to do well and maybe get a really nice job after this. But that being said, this movie really is so ambiguous to the point where you have just no idea what to, draw from it. At least that's how I took it. A lot of people have been coming up with their own theories for the movie and exactly why this is the title for it, why the storyline is what it is. And it's just shot so strangely and so, I want to say interesting, but at the same time, I don't find it that interesting. When people say this movie's an experience or a film that is supposed to, just make you think, I'm always, skeptical of what that's supposed to entail. And having seen this one, I just kind of sat there for an hour and 40 minutes just looking at the screen like this, hoping that something was going to come about, and nothing ever did. There's only moments where I was just irritated, and that's because either the movie was too slow, or two, that the movie would all of a sudden just throw out like a really intense jump audio glare. One of those things where it's like, "Dah!" Like it just does that just to mess with you. Ooh, I cannot stand that. And that's all this movie did, like maybe every 30 to 35 minutes or so. The movie is very slow. It drags. And again, for an hour and 40 minutes, this will feel like a 4-hour film. I was trying to find purpose. I was trying to find meaning. This movie is not going to be for everybody. That's what most audiences have been saying. You're either going to be genuinely terrified or you're going to dislike it. I'm somewhere sort of in the middle. I kind of want to appreciate just the style of it, but at the same time, I found nothing original or creative about it. This is one of those movies that I felt like me and my friends in high school could have done on a weekend if we were bored. We had a camera and we thought, let's just put a camera around the house and start doing some weird shit and just kind of see what comes from it, That's all that this movie kind of provided for me. And for him to crack the code, the director, Kyle Edward Ball, to still have a movie shot for like nothing and get it into theaters, well, it gives me hope, to be honest with you. Again, it's an experience that some people might enjoy, but for me, I was just bored. It was lackluster. It did nothing for me. I was extremely exhausted by the time this was over, and when it finally did end, I was relieved. About 5 people in the screening I saw walked out of the theater, probably about 30 to 40 minutes in. They couldn't take it anymore. And then there was one gentleman about, I want to say 10 minutes before the movie ended, left also. So he was just pretty much there until the end and then just couldn't handle it anymore. He left. So it's one of those films that it's getting praised for some reason, which part of me understands, but the other part of me does not. It's not a film that I'm going to recommend you see. It's a very just slow, like I said, slow burn, very boring film, not very creative, not anything interesting. I understand that this is kind of taking a play on our childhood, nightmares and our idea of being like in the dark, things like that. This movie is basically just a big exercise for you to do a whole interpretation of how you see what the darkness and what voices and things like that when we're younger and what we think is around us or what we're hearing might be about. But it just did not play off for me. I think this was just such a snooze fest. Anyway, that's my opinion. No disrespect. I can't help it. I have an opinion like everybody else, but this is a movie that I'm not going to recommend. The title, the ending, there are certain things that happen that's just way too ambiguous. I'm sorry, but when you call your film an art house picture, that just makes me a little worried because I'm like, what does that mean exactly? And having seen this one, I'm just like, it didn't do anything for me. I don't find anything artsy about it. It's independent for sure because of its budget and the way it was shot. But aside from that, I found nothing special about it. I'm not going to recommend it. If you are somebody who enjoyed the movie, let me know why. Let me know what your theories on this film were. Drop it down in the comments below. And if you've never heard of it, well, now you have. It's not a film, like I said, I'm going to recommend because I don't think there's anything that noteworthy about it. This movie has just frustrated me since I saw it last night. But anyway, that's my opinion. That's my take. Love it or hate it. That's just how I feel.